So there. Now, let's go back to my first idea. Why should you be charging twice what you're charging right now? Because honestly, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for the art. You know, and I've heard some guys who are very much in this position where they believe that if you're charging a lot of money for teaching artists, you're doing something bad. You know, they think it has to be an altruistic thing for it to be good. I would argue the exact opposite. The higher you charge, the better the art is. Why? All right, I've seen a lot of guys who do amateur training. You know, they train their friends, they train a bunch of guys every weekend. I used to do that before when I used to work corporate, before I started teaching artists full time. I would just teach guys on the weekend, and I was doing the exact same thing. I just charged them enough money to cover the rent, right? And maybe a little bit extra for me. But honestly, the amount I was spending on gas, the time I was spending with them, it really didn't pay for anything. It just paid for the rent, really. But I was enjoying myself. I was teaching. I was having fun, right? So I was in the even then I was in the upper end of that spectrum. I was renting a place, right? Some guys I know, they just invite people to come over to their houses, and I've met teachers who do that. Even my master would do that sometimes. You know, he feels like we should be training. He goes, "Hey guys, I want to train you guys for about a month. Come to my house. We'll do some training." And you know, we're at that level in our relationship where that's more common. All right, where that's not unusual. But that's not how he treats most of his students. All right, so at that point, right, where you're just basically trying to cover, and then you're on that area of the spectrum where you're just teaching for funsies. At that point in my life as an instructor, I noticed in hindsight, I wasn't as professional as I could be. You know, I would show up for Saturday training hungover from the night before because I was young, and when you're young, that's what you do on a Friday night. You get drunk. I show up for training hammered. No, well, okay, I've showed up for training hammered, but I would show up hungover, right? And I would just, oh, all right, this is what we're gonna do. And I'm not prepared for the curriculum. Like I would even ask my students, what did we do last time again? You know, I would do that because, and I didn't feel like I was shortchanging my students because honestly, you guys are just paying for the rent. You know, you're not really paying me what I think I'm worth, right? Um, but after a while, that didn't feel like a good thing. You know, I feel like I'm shortchanging my students, and as a teacher, I was not growing because I was just phoning it in. You know, I kind of liked it, I enjoyed it. I was at that point, I was training people just so I could spar with someone. Then I realized that's a bad idea because they're typically not as good as me. Long story. But there. Now I moved up. I made a decision years ago to become a professional martial arts instructor. Teach artists full time. That's going to pay for everything. Am I there? On some months I am. I'll be honest with you guys. Some months, oh, it's hard to make ends meet. But that's partially my fault. My lifestyle is I pay for too much stuff. All right, but that's not the point. So I moved up and I became a professional martial arts instructor, and that's where the level of instruction that I gave moved up, right? I started teaching in a school, so my punctuality was amazing. So when I say I'm there at 4:30, I'll be there 4:25. You know, I was living under the idea that, 5 minutes early is on time is late, 15 minutes late is unforgivable, right? I was living under that because they're paying me a respectable amount. I was treating it like a job, right? So the way you guys would treat your job, you might hate your job, but you show up on time, right? This time I love my job, that's why I show up on time, right? So I show up on time and I'm never unprepared. I always know what I'm going to do next. This is what we did last week, and I had a strict curriculum. My hour is jam packed. There's not like dead air during my training time. If I say the training time is 1 hour 30 minutes, this is how long the warm up is going to be. This is how long the review is going to be. This is how much new stuff I'm going to train. And then this is the cool down. Then there's always going to be a cool down because it's important, especially if you have older students. For younger students, not so much, but getting the habit is important. Anyway, So that's what I did. My professionalism went up. I started making lesson plans. Although to be fair, I was kind of forced to write lesson plans, but that's another story. But I was writing lesson plans. This is what we did last week. We didn't get to this part of the curriculum, which was my target, so this week I have to adjust, blah, blah, blah. It was very professional, right? That's what I mean about how putting up your prices improves the art. It makes it better. It's the same in any sport. Like, for example, basketball. You know, everybody plays basketball. But can you imagine if basketball did not have a professional league, if everyone was just in the amateur league, right? The level of athleticism would not be there. You know, these guys who are really super athletic, you know, who have all that ability, they're gonna go to the sport that pays them the best, right? And that's the same is true as also for martial arts, for arnis, right? The best instructors, if they feel like they're gonna make more money teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they're gonna teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? I know some guys, and this is a bit of a weird story for me. I met someone, he was an instructor of traditional Chinese martial arts, but he is like 100% Filipino. He looks super Filipino. Like, I look kind of Chinese, but he looks really Filipino. And he told me, like, I can't charge half as much in this field because I don't look Chinese. You know, everybody wants, what was that name? The master in Kill Bill, Pei or something like that, where he has a long beard. That's what everyone expects. You know, old master with a beard. They don't expect short brown dude with muscles. But you know, that's the thing. And he started teaching arnis primarily not because he loves arnis, and he was honest with me. Like, I really love Chinese martial arts, but it just doesn't work so well for me. You know, as an instructor. You know. So anyway, that's what's gonna happen, and I've seen it time and time again. So many athletes, once they come to the collegiate level, they're suddenly faced with a choice. They can do taekwondo, which is a Olympic sport, right? And arnis, which is not even barely national. I'll be honest with you. So where are they gonna go, right? They're gonna go to one, especially if you're a poor student, right? From the beginning, if you're a poor student, what sport is gonna give you the scholarships? Basketball, maybe volleyball, taekwondo. Those have scholarships. Schools are gonna pay you basically to represent them in sports. And that's why all those athletes go there. The same is true in arnis. You know, we don't have enough scholarships. We don't have enough support behind it. So all of our best players move away. I've heard Sikaran teachers are the worst when it comes to this. They complain about this so much because they tell me, like, you know, Sikaran is not as prestigious. We know that. And we end up training students 5-10 years. Once they're super developed in Sikaran, then they move to Taekwondo because they have scholarships there. And that's the thing. That's why you, as an instructor, charging more is actually good for the art and good for you because it gives you money. It gives you freedom to train yourself.